Peter A. Bell, welcome to the India Live interview space in the studio. Thanks for coming along. I'm Jason McCann. I have been, champing at the bit now for months for a sit-down chat with you. What I'd like to ask you, first of all, is how you got involved in the independence movement, where Peter A. Bell came from, and what brought you to where we are now.
Whoa, that's a long story because it goes back to my childhood. I've been a nationalist. I've been an advocate of Scottish independence pretty much as long as I can remember. I joined the SNP as soon as I turned 12, and I've been a member of the SNP on and off ever since. And always an advocate of independence. To me, it just seemed an obvious thing. It seemed right, it seemed fair, it seemed just that Scotland should be an independent nation. The independence movement, as we know it now, that's pretty much dates back to around 2011, when it became obvious, when Alex Salmond told us that we were getting the long-awaited referendum, and after a little chat with my wife about the matter, I decided just to pack in my business, walk away from it, and pretty much devote myself full-time to what became the Yes campaign. And that's how it's been ever since.
You mentioned there two concepts with which we are all incredibly familiar, but I'd like you to maybe take some time to unpack them. The first one is independence. What does independence mean to you? How do you envisage this? And the other one's nationalism, which was part of the conversation we were having last night. I'd actually like to get what your thoughts on what nationalism means. So if we start with independence, what is it? What does it mean? How do you see it?
I see independence as simply restoring normality to Scotland. Independence is normal. That's the way things should be. The Union is anomalous, which is not to say that political unions are bad things per se. A political union can be a good thing. It can be a productive thing. But the political union that we have, the political union that forms the UK, the political union between Scotland and England, is fatally flawed. It always has been fatally flawed. It's taken 300 years for this to come to a head. But it's fatally flawed because the asymmetry of power, the imbalance, the democratic deficit, which means that the British state is systemically incapable of representing Scotland's interests adequately. And most importantly, the denial of popular sovereignty. As far as I'm concerned, is a matter of fundamental principle that democracy stems from the people, political authority stems from the people, and that the people are sovereign. The concept of sovereignty of Parliament and the sovereignty of the Crown in Parliament, that's a concept which is totally alien to me and basically has nothing to do with democracy. So independence is about restoring normality and restoring democracy to Scotland.
Last night, when we were with the group in Fine out in Loch Gilhet, we were asked questions about nationalism, and the question that was posed to me, and afterwards you kind of enigmatically said, I wish that had been asked of me. So I'd like to put that question to you. What is nationalism?
Right. For a start, nationalism isn't really a thing. It's not an ideology in its own. Nationalism is a component of different political ideologies, and it ranks differently in different political ideologies. In some, it's the main driving force of that ideology. In others, it's simply there somewhere. To understand nationalism and the different kinds of nationalism, you have to understand the concept of the nation and the nation state, which is a fairly modern concept. The nation state shouldn't actually exist in nature. Nature abhors groups of large groups of people. People weren't designed to get on in numbers of thousands and millions. We're designed to operate in groups of fewer than a couple of hundred. So the nation's not natural. It's an artifact. It's something that we've created. And the nationalism, different kinds of nationalism, stem from different concepts of the nation. Where you have a concept of the nation as a family, a kin group, a tribe, and I'm oversimplifying greatly here, obviously, but where that is your concept of the nation, the tribe, the kin group, the family, then that is what gives rise to what we commonly call blood and soil nationalism, because it's all about the links of a common heritage. A different concept of the nation, the concept which I believe is appropriate to me and appropriate to Scotland's civic nationalism, the concept of the nation is as a community of communities, and as a sort of machine for making society work. The nation is simply the machine within which society operates and which makes it work. And it's based, that concept of nationalism is based not on a common heritage, but on a common commitment, a shared commitment. Whereas where we have it's a nationalism based on a shared commitment to making the nation work and making it work better.
There you touched on the alternative nationalism, alternative to the nationalism that's foisted on us by the UK, the British state, and the establishment media of, you know, the cybernat and the blood and soil nationalism that Britain would like to paint Scotland as. So when we talk about civic and voluntary nationalism, what exactly is that for people who are maybe just familiar with that term but not familiar with, you know, what it means? How does it act out?
As Ernst Renan, philosopher, I can never remember whether he was French or Belgian, so bound to upset somebody here. There are fewer Belgians, so I'll call him French. He described the nation as an ongoing, a daily plebiscite. And that rather fits in with my own notion, or that other notion, I don't claim it for myself, of shared commitment. And it fits in with notions of citizenship, which then again gets us back to civic nationalism. It maybe all seems rather circular, but that's because it is. It's the individuals commit to democracy, they commit to the communities commit to other communities, until you have this commitment to the nation, the shared welfare of the nation. And it only happens to be the nation because that particular nation, because that is where people can be effective. They can exercise effective political power within that community of communities. At some point, it gets further away from the individual, and the effective power becomes more, exerting effective power becomes more problematic. So we define a little area and say that's the bit that we can manage, and we will manage stuff within that. And then we agree with our neighbours that they manage things in their bit, and mostly it's all fine. Occasionally it goes wrong.
Part of the purpose of this entire project was about interviewing thought leaders within the independence movement. That maybe seems a little intimidating, thought leaders. And of course, you were identified on, you were on our list. You're a thought leader. Now, you publish your own blog. You have been a long-time writer now on the IndieRef2 site. You're a contributor to iScot, so you're clearly a voice in the movement. You're someone people listen to. What does that leadership mean to you?
I have never thought of it in those terms. And listening to you describe it in those terms, describe what I do in those terms, it's a little bit intimidating. I've always considered myself just to be another activist, contributing to this campaign, this project to restore Scotland's rightful constitutional status. I've never considered myself as having any leading role in that. That's a bit problematic. We all contribute to this cause in different ways. For some people, it's writing a blog. For some people, it's delivering leaflets. For some, it's simply wearing a badge and maybe putting 10 quid into a crowdfunder once in a while. We all do the bits and pieces that we can. I do what I can.
Well, first of all, I mean, I love being able to intimidate you like that. You're one of the scariest people I know on social media, so listening to you say that gives me a certain sense of self-satisfaction. But as we were talking about earlier, we were talking about blog stats, looking at them once a month and seeing how many people are reading what you've been writing. So you, more than most, would be aware that you are reaching hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people. That in itself is a form of leadership. You get to inform and form and change people's minds. And what I wanted to do was maybe try and tease out of you what sense of responsibility that maybe, engenders in you. I mean,
well, not that much before, but now.
Good.
Right. Yeah, I suppose. I suppose we all have a certain responsibility because I don't obsess much about stats. I don't spend a lot of time poring over the stats on my blog. Yeah, I see the retweets, the numbers. They're right in front of me, and yeah, it's kind of gratifying. What does mean to me? I want to stir people up. I believe in politics. I believe in democratic politics, participative politics. I believe in engagement. I believe the Yes movement is a wonderful example of democracy in action. It's as I describe it, a wave of democratic dissent, peaceful, lawful, democratic dissent. It may be without precedent in history. This massive wave of popular dissent. I just want to contribute to that. I want to keep that going. I want to keep the momentum going. And I want to agitate people. I want people to be a bit angry. Not raging, but I want them to be angry because there are things that are worth being angry about. And I think we need a bit of anger in our politics. Just as we need a bit of a dream in our politics. We need bits and pieces of these things. Our politics cannot be pure, cold and mechanical. Politics is about people. So we need a bit of anger, we need a bit of joy, we need a bit of humour, and we need a bit of daring, a bit of dreaming. And we have all that in the Yes movement. And if by what I write I sort of promote some of that in some way, then I'll be perfectly happy. That's as far as it goes. I just want to stir people up.
So what is the biggest challenge we face right now as a movement?
The biggest challenge, it would be a bit difficult to pick out the biggest one. The biggest challenge, obviously, is the British state. That's the obvious answer. We face the immediate challenge of asserting our right of self-determination. That is our right. That right belongs to the people of Scotland. The British state, British politicians, the British political elite are in the process of trying to deny that right. They acknowledged it. The Edinburgh Agreement acknowledged that the people of Scotland have a right of self-determination, but they are now trying to renege on that. They want to say, no, you don't. So we have to assert that, otherwise we will lose it. We have to defend our Parliament. Our Parliament is also under attack. The British state, the British establishment, the British political elite sees that Parliament now as a threat to the structures of power and privilege and patronage which define the British state. This is a British regime, a British political system which for as long as anybody can remember has operated on this, the idea, the constantly repeated mantra that there is no other way. Everything that they do to us in terms of austerity and abuses of our civil and human rights, everything that they do because there is no other way. And here you have the neighbour to the north, just across the border, demonstrating on a daily basis and in an increasingly obvious way that there is another way. We have developed in Scotland a distinctive political culture, and it's sitting there as this alternative, proving the lie of there is no other way. So obviously this is a huge embarrassment to the British establishment, and they want to eradicate it, they want to eliminate it, they want to put a stop to it. And we are under a very real and imminent threat. Our democratic institutions are under threat. It is as serious as that.